Well, joining me to discuss this is broadcast journalist Ife Onyeguli. Ife, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Good to see you this morning.
Same here. The president has prescribed a 6-month jail term for persons who do not comply with the safety protocols, that is wearing face mask, hand washing, but basically the use of face mask. And the question on the lips of some Nigerians is this different from every other law that we have had over time? What makes this different? Are we going to see that implementation that we have always, talked about whenever we see the government come up with rules and regulation, if I may use that word, penalties for certain things?
As you've said, this is not the first time we're hearing about laws. There are laws and there are laws, but are people following those laws? That's what we need to, excuse me, be asking ourselves as it is. When I saw it, or when I saw that report, I asked myself the same question. Even the people who call themselves government, the people who work as, government official, do they use their face mask? That's it. You have to lead by example. That's what we're talking about. But I'm just hoping that we'll get to follow this and follow it through. There are quite a number of other things, added to the use of face mask and the penalty that has been ascribed to not using it now as it is. But will people get to follow that? Who is going to check it out?
Enforce it.
Now, for people who do calling programs, when you hear what it is that people will say, they will say to you, go to the motor parks. You see the buses are loading at full capacity. They are not wearing their face mask. Who is going to arrest anyone? Who is going to call them to order? What are those penalties? How are these things going to be put in place, or how are they going to be checked?
And how do we ensure that there are no sharp practices?
That is it.
You would recall that at the first phase, when there was a lockdown, there was no interstate travel at the time, but we still saw people traveling. And
yes,
the reports you got was that there were sharp practices.
There were.
You need to tip off certain persons,
get letters from
so
some
that you can
persons.
Move around.
Exactly.
So how do we deal with all of this? Because if we really need to, stem the tide of the pandemic, something has to be done. We need to take responsibility. Own your safety, like someone said yesterday.
That's just it. You don't have to wait for a law that is going to come down with a sledgehammer on you if you don't do what is right. Of course, I've always had my mask. I have, I can't even tell you the number that I've used since this pandemic started. I bought a pack. I used to have gloves until the WHO came and said, no use of gloves, you don't need that. I have a hand sanitizer in my bag, which is what I think people should do. And it doesn't cost you anything to use the mask. That's the truth. What you do is just cover up. When you get to a place where you're just by yourself, then you can take it off. I see people who are in their cars even, with the shield wound up, they still have the mask on. Is that right? So I think the education that we need to do now as media persons, radio, TV, newspapers, people need to talk to people about why it is that they should take responsibility. You don't have to wait for the government. That's the truth. Because when you fall ill, if you don't use your mask, you fall ill. You find yourself in the hospital. Who says that you're going to survive?
Right.
Because when you look at it, not everyone has that clean bill of health, if you understand what I'm talking about.
Course.
So why don't you just prevent something instead of finding yourself falling ill as it is? Maybe some people don't understand what it is to wear a mask. It's as easy as ABC. If you allow me, do some kind of demo here. Is that okay?
Absolutely. Go ahead. The right use of the mask, that's another thing that has to be done.
There's always this thing, is it the white place out or the blue place in? It is as simple as, just latching it on. For those who wear very big earrings, you need to be careful what happens, okay? You now just do that, put on the other one, and it's important that you do this so that everywhere
so it sits in place properly.
It sits in. And that's it. I'm talking to you now. I'm sure that you can hear what it is that I'm saying.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure the people at home can actually hear me.
Of course.
So what you do is you place it well and now let it latch. It's as simple as that. So I wonder why it is that people find it difficult to use their mask.
Owning their safety taking responsibility, which is what government has always harped on. But one major concern for a lot of persons is leadership in the aspect of communicating and also leading by example.
That's it.
Because some persons say, you are telling us to do this, but we have not seen you lead us, by example.
But the president now wears his mask.
Do you see that person get challenged, so to speak?
It's a huge challenge. That's the truth. I'm sure when we first started that we never used to saw the president with a mask. And you're saying, look, this is the man who's leading the country. He gets briefing from people and he's sitting there by himself. Remember, this is a man who's a senior citizen. He's in his 70s, the vulnerable group as it is. But I saw him recently with the new service chiefs. He had his mask on, and that made a lot of sense. You've got to lead by example. People need to see that this is what you're doing so that they're able to follow you and follow through.
Now, another aspect is the fact that there has to be provision of water for hand washing, especially in places where people gather, schools, banks, worship centers, and all. But the challenge for some persons is access to all of this. They feel that not all of these spaces can afford to provide this water, especially.
That's a huge challenge. That's the truth. But I think we can work out something. There's something called a tippy tap, where you have a container and you have it connected to something. You can get to press it with your leg.
Like a pedal.
Yes, like a pedal, and water comes out. It's about working it out. There are buckets now, but I don't like that bucket kind of thing, where you have to touch the tap and all of that. So we need to do something. But whatever it is, make sure you have that hand sanitizer. You wash your hands, then use the sanitizer, use your mask. I hear it's 6 months, but I'm not hearing anything about a fine.
Will that make any difference?
When you keep paying and paying and paying,
you will sit and have a rethink.
Yes, you will have a rethink, as it is.
Ife Onyegbule, broadcast journalist, thank you for your time on the program.
Thank you for having me.
All right.